I'm sure this one's going to be nearly as good, if not better, than the one we had previously, but it's also going to kind of come down to what map it's on, whether it'll be a good one or whether it'll be kind of a snooze less, like Cafe can be if it's too one-sided.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I'm excited for this game. I haven't seen a lot of either one of these teams recently. I know specifically for the Washington Wizards, they had some experience at open quals. They didn't make Element 4 because of reasons, but I'll let you talk about that, Scott.
Washington Wizards, what more can you say? Bino, Woos, Finn, Center, and Asian, they are some of the best you could possibly ask for to stack up onto a roster. But to do so and still come out of your first match here in the Crucible for the season with a loss is something incalculable. And the matter of fact is, you do it in a map that was arguably the best played on day one. We had her even yesterday. We also saw it again go into an OT scenario where it was a very defender-sided showcase all the way through, both sides playing in a slugfest. You had no attacking rounds won until one for each half until you enter overtime, and both teams win out on what was thought to be at the time whoever wins attack first wins out an OT. They turn that on the board. They both win their attack, and then it unfurls back the wrong way for those Washington Wizards, where you get your point. It's a loss in overtime, but it's not the way you wanted to see it go down, especially with as stacked of a roster as you have in your hands.
So Chaka, Shreds is a loss to a great team, and now they play another potential contender. Group B is tough as far as competition goes. How can they push through this match and claim victory?
Yeah, I mean, them losing against Cruelty is not the end of the world because, like, they had a really good game against them. I thought, like, they did very well in opening up rounds by fighting for the opening pick most of the time, something that Cruelty are quite good at. I mean, you look at Cruelty as a team, they have Pyroxes, they have Matumbo, they have Ivan, I don't know how I forgot about his name, Skibsy. They have a lot of like heavy hitters on this team, and so to be able to like contest with them on opening picks round after round after round and match like their chaoticness and still be very close in that game when everybody counted you out almost from the very beginning is not the end of the world. I don't think they should count themselves out. I think they're in a pretty competitive group. I think Group B, honestly, just looks a whole lot better than Group A does at the moment, just because of how close the competition seemed. I mean, Washington Wizards literally had a rough overtime game against Core where they suffered a 5-1 choke after not winning a single attack, or after not winning, after only winning one attack when they switched. So I think that if you have a chance today, then this is one of them, but I wouldn't be surprised if Washington Wizards made some adjustments before coming into this game to ensure a win.
Okay, well, the story starts with where the match sits. So let's take a quick look. Bands coming up for the mats. Infernosis, what do you think we're going to see as we're going through these?
Well, I would try to avoid Skyscraper, personally speaking, if I was watching the Wizards, or even if I'm on the other side, right? You just saw them go through a ridiculous map. You saw how well they played it. Just try to circumnavigate that, or just ban it out right off the rip. And that is, in fact, what we see from Shreds. It's Cafe, Skyscraper, Border, Chalet, rest in peace. You will be missed. Followed now by Clubhouse. Lair gets through, and while there is a bit of a scare because Nighthaven is still on the board, and I do in fact hate Nighthaven, I would be more so pressed to see Consulate maybe ban next, or Bank, but it is a player choice at the end of the day, and I feel like the Washington Wizards are more likely to get rid of a vertical map like Bank, where it is so heavy on utility expenditure, because we know what it was like on the gunfights and on the player positioning for Skyscraper. So get rid of that. Shreds say, we don't want Nighthaven. Shreds gets my T in, and it is in fact Consulate. We already saw yesterday, and we saw how this map pans out. The attackers have a lot of work in front of them.
So Consulate. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I'm kind of confused about that. I'm surprised that against a team like the Washington Wizards, again, this is CL4L Part 2, Bino's at the head of this roster. They still hold a lot of the core values of the previous roster, and one of them is like their map pool. Even with this iteration of CL4L Part 2, now Washington Wizards, whatever you want to call them, they're still a pretty good Consulate team, and they showed that during the opening qualifiers, or no, not the opening qualifiers, the closed qualifiers for Crucible, but also during the closed qualifiers and opening qualifiers for the SI, the NA SI quals. I can't speak today. So it's surprising to me that Shreds would want to go to this map. Clearly they think that they have a lot of info on this team, or they're pretty confident in Consulate, because this is a pretty low ban preference for Shreds. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this pans out for them, but I can imagine Washington Wizards having a good game on this map.
Okay, so then it's a best of one. Infernosis, give me your final thoughts here. What can we expect from this final banger of the evening?
I would really pray for a Monty ban, but I seriously doubt it's going to happen. I'm expecting a lot of shield play. Blackbeard was obviously banned in our previous series. That was heavily utilized yesterday. It's going to be a battle of who can get these tanks, these players, into position first before they start to fall back and hold these crossfires, and they can engage in towards site. Offense is damn tough to deal with these shields in front of them, and the defense has to find a way, and yet still comes away with the majority of these rounds because of just how dangerous these chokeholds are for an offensive team to deal with. I think T is going to be the hardest site we see here in this matchup, and I think Washington Wizards have a good enough lineup where they're not going to make mistakes on the first floor for their roam. You got to clear that first.
Okay, same to you, Chaco, right? Final thoughts on what we've got for the final match of the evening.
I just want to see how Shreds play, because I think it was like XGS Season 6, the last time that they played, they also had like some difficulties playing through that tournament because of, I'm not going to get into it, but basically like they had like a pretty good run during XGS Season 6. It's been a while since I've seen this team in like a high T3 tournament, or even you could probably consider Crucible T2 by this point. I don't think so, but like it's good enough. You know, this is what we got for now. So I mean, yeah, I'm excited to see Shreds again. I want to see how they play on this map, and I just want to get right into it.
Okay, well, get right into it. We will then. One more match, one chance to see more Siege this evening. Infernosis, Chaka, please take us away.
Wow, Chaka, just shoot a bullet right through Zaysho's heart. Shoot a bullet right through Zaysho's heart. It's okay. We can console him. No, it's fine. It's out there. The internet is forever. I also kind of agree. It's not exactly there just yet, but we won't tell Zaysho at the end of this one. I don't even think Prod actually knows what was going on. Prod doesn't pay attention. They've been stripped now away from this voice call we have at the end of the day. No matter what the case is, our ban phase goes through. And Monty does, in fact, get banned, which means that black door is going to be something that can be either heavily mismanaged or entirely avoided for a lot of attacks close towards T, close towards that karaoke side. And the ban for the defense, where the Washington Wizards, they do not want to deal with that Fenrir. And Fenrir is very valid choice for Consulate. Consulate is, I would argue, the map in my mind for Fenrir, probably because when the rework came out here, Chaka, that's when Fenrir came into the game. So I had a little bit of a bit of a bias in that process, but you now have no Kiba barricades, which means it's going to be Blackbeard Repel, I feel like, to the second floor, and it's going to be a very dangerous run out game, I feel, down through yellow stairs in towards basement and those long fire holds and armory.
You also leave the Valkyrie up on this map, and like Deimos as a ban makes sense on Consulate. I think when you look at how like vertical heavy this map is, I kind of agree with it, especially when you're trying to hold a meeting and you have a Deimos like shooting at you as the smoke in the middle of meeting, as you're trying to get your smoke grenades out to try and further slow down an admin take that the attack is doing if they do that. Either way, like, I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, they leave the Blackbeard up, you leave the Valkyrie up, you also leave Mira up, which is, again, not too uncommon to see a Mira go unbanned in a ban phase for most maps, but she is still quite strong, so I feel a need to mention her anyways, because of how pivotal Mira can be for some of the sites. Sometimes you won't bring enough utility to deal with those Mira windows, and you might suffer as a result of it. In an opening round, though, Washington Wizards will be starting up on the top floor. They have a smoke, they have a Goyo, and they're really playing heavily into this admin take that Shreds are doing right now.
You play into this early, you can almost feel like you could value giving away a single player. That would more likely than not be Finns, as they're in a very dangerous predicament. But you have Bino not too far away to maybe try to play for something afterwards. What you're really trying to highlight here is the Vulcan canister through window in main plant on site, and the very big possibility that they're going to just try to extend it there swiftly. That's why zombies get brought a lot of times on this map. You just use your Garu hook, very quickly get in there, hop right back out, try to get rid of the utility that's in place. You have goo mines to deny that. You got toxic babes. Shamika launcher is fairly popular for it as well. You have that Vulcan canister. I feel like it's the dangerous part because we saw it just yesterday, a nitro cell be tossed by a defender to try to counteract the window repel. It failed and destroyed literally every single piece of defender utility that was stacked up there, essentially ruining the potential for a late stage hold, and I think inevitably actually costing them that round. So have to really be careful here if you're Washington Wizards, because right now Shreds don't look to really want to pursue that window. Though things can change, it's going to be that simple start where get rid of the catering wall, try to get an early breach there, create some phantom pressure, work towards admin, try to get your feet indoors, because right now no one from Shreds has yet been able to take a step inside.
I mean, they also just don't really have a lot of utility to clear this hallway position. There's no deployable shield here, so it's not like a question of not having the explosives. It's just about like flushing this player out and seeing if you can like then cut him off as he tries to escape when you push deeper into the lounge area right next to admin. They don't have that at the moment, and they're kind of stalling out on this push, which makes operators like the Goyo and the Smoke and these nitro and the one nitro cell, at least the back pocket of Woos, so much more potent against Shreds, who are just stalling on the admin side, and they cannot progress further than hallway.
Yeah, this elbow is very dangerous as well, because you have to get through the majority of meeting. So we're going to see even more utility being tossed down by that Washington Wizards defense. Keeping the Legion alive for so long just feeds the tally for util that can continuously be expunged in their direction. You're now stuck behind vending if you're Bino. You may be doomed to die here. You do have the chance maybe to make it back across, but I think they realize that their time is coming short. They have one more goo mine in the pocket, so you would hope to get that out in some capacity, but you're not getting anything out. Instead, it's some quick 5.56 straight through your forehead, and two more of your teammates, no, three, come into the afterlife with you. The Washington Wizards are at a two-player advantage, and as quickly as it can be, Shreds go from having nearly no map control, being stuck on that admin side, to making a huge breakaway. Maybe the NBA in the name is not just to be trifled with, making a huge breakaway off towards site, in through hall more specifically, because the Washington Wizards trying to test their luck, going for some really, really dangerous swings and paying the price.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that they went for that because, like I mentioned, you have late round utility. You have Smoke, you have Goyo, which they popped at like the right moment, and they're just like playing really aggressively off of that. The vending player is going to die, and that's perfectly fine, but you need to hold your discipline by places like the long desk, by in the middle of a meeting, or inside of inside of meeting. Hold your positions a lot more. That'll help enable your Smoke player to be a lot more effective, especially in the late round when you're trying to deny these entry points. But by the time you kill the hallway player, now they also kill the long desk player, you just have so much control to work with, but that player in the middle of meeting just gets isolated, and the Smoke has no more utility left. He has no protection anymore because the rest of his team dies around him. So yeah, I think Washington Wizards should have done better in that round, and they probably should have won it just based on time and utility alone.
Well, unfortunately, hindsight is 2020. The year is 2025, and Washington Wizards come away in round one with nothing. And that top floor, I don't really like what I saw. As a whole, they're going to avoid it just the same. I had an old saying, never play the same objective twice. It breeds a level of complacency I don't think belongs. I think there were valid moments to do so, and I couldn't necessarily argue against it for this round two. But it's good to start to see what Shreds have elsewhere and take your victories to then clarify that basement, if you win it here, as your new default and have to cycle back on over to it before you re-second guess and maybe stage a top floor re-defense hold when you come back around. Kaid Electro Claw out. This is just trying to lock down this exit wall. You have this blue stairwell all to yourself, but you're hearing feet all across this map as Shreds have done at least the dirty job of this top floor and hopefully first floor soon clearance. Nobody for the Wizards side are testing the ground, but this is why you have the Dokkaebi calls. Quickly send those out, test where every player is, and while only one of them can get within a mute jammer in time, that should solidify that there is no person actively on the first site, but maybe, just maybe, there's one here on yellow stairs, and Dev, the one who went unseen by that Dokkaebi call, very well could sneak away a Mossberg kill.
I I think they're just trying to isolate this player on top floor, but it's taking them a while to get set up in the right positions.
No
and
way.
While, I mean, you get the kill, he finds a down, and he also kills the Dokkaebi. So, yeah, you get the phone calls, you see the value from it, but you spent so much time hunting one player set in cutoff positions, and you still lose somebody because of it.
Oh my goodness. Dev still was unseen at that point. Like I said, the Dokkaebi call never pings them.
Yeah.
And it just gets worse. You know he's there. The Mossberg is out. Avoid or navigate elsewhere. You cannot remove him from his position. The shotgun will tear you through. This is why shields find value here. And the Washington Wizards will not be allowed to step any further back towards the basement. They're getting too much success on this first floor. Just keep peeking them, why don't you, Dev? The Mossberg for 4 in the second round. And there's no chance in hell Shreds will say, we had a good shot at that one. Round 2, forget it. That was awful.
They just took so long on that top floor clear, and they didn't even fully, like, have, like, good info that whole entire round. I mean, they knew that the visual was by long desk, and they get in good cutoff positions to cut him off, but he still finds a kill. They don't know about the yellow player because they don't drone out the entirety of the top floor. Like, they're trying to do a top floor clear on basement, and you only have a minute left. Wow, what are we doing? They have, like, no pressure towards site, and it's just, like, something that we've seen for the past 2 rounds, is that Shreds, like, if it's not, like, if I don't know, like, they just don't have, they're just too slow. They're just really slow.
Pacing is most definitely a problem that's going to be glaring in their direction, but also they're just total disregard for going a different direction, avoiding the player at hand, right? Like, just drone that out first. More likely than not, it was. They saw the player and still some reason somehow thought they could actually get that kill. I'd like to assume in the best case scenario, it was in fact droned, but we do not know for sure just yet. We have to look back and check where those drones are and what the process was for Shred's offense. Went outside 1-1. It's a very quick entry into the map right now for this Shreds offense as they want to quickly try to claim space on this first floor. And it's a very western-sided approach, like eastern-sided approach. They need to start moving westward. And this Manifest Destiny will need to do so a lot quicker than in the previous round. Hopefully there won't be as many problems when it comes to the Mossberg around these bins. But Dev, the fear and danger is going to be the SMG-11 instead. You feed the beast. We saw with the previous round with Kiro Xhaka. They tend to start to continue to pop off unless you shut them down quickly.
I wonder, like you mentioned, they're doing a west side take. They're going to try and get the lobby wall open, but they have to take the top floor because obviously the defending team is going to be holding up top, which Washington Wizards are. They're going to be holding vertical angles, and you don't have smokes to deny the line of sight. Most importantly, like, no Capital smokes, and even if you did, to stick them on the roof of the vertical angles on a floor above you, you have a, oh my god, you have a warden up here. I can't talk today. So he can see past the smokes and deny this direct take if Shreds go for it.
Oh, Quack, Debia node. It will not be the first player to follow as Ez has that luxury.
How is he in? What's going on?
You even step into a goo mine there. Your life is seemingly forfeit. There's information and you know, back 3 years ago, you say that Legion is nearly an intel op. You'll get your head lopped off in the scene, but now it's not too hard to say that is the case. Asian now, a 90-19, pieces apart, 2 on the offensive for Shreds. And here's that Mossberg. Finns now 2 to their name. Dev reared through with it last round, and no necessary, well, no cautionary tale to be told. No necessary action needed from them, bar this final SMG that comes through. And I said the distance was going to be something Dev would have to manage, and the SMG was arguably going to be the weapon of foray for them. Here it is. Round 3, Washington Wizards now up ahead, despite round 1 being so Shreds heavy in the kill feed when it came to that upper hall.
And it honestly seemed like Shreds were just, like, hoping to find something through individual efforts. I mean, you have the Ash jumping in solo through bathroom, right into a crossfire from top yellow or lamps, and the player that's inside of offices. And it doesn't really feel like there's a unified effort in taking the top floor. Players are just kind of like doing their own things. You have a player lurking solo through lounge, seeing if they can find any gaps, but there's like no gaps to find. And I feel like at this point, like, if they go back to that site, Shreds really need to identify like a clear win condition. Like, what is something that you see that you think could win you the round? And if you're going for a lobby take, then you really need to take control of meeting. And they never really did that, despite that being like, despite exposition, which is right the site right next to lobby, the one that you want to try and get into if you open that lobby wall. If that's your focus, then you really need to understand that you need to take meeting on top of that, and it needs to be a cohesive team effort. It wasn't that round, and Washington Wizards smoked them as they try and go for individual efforts and lurk plays.
Now we see a spawn peek coming out. And just trying to go for a pre-fire. No one actually in that direction. Shreds have avoided the danger of a early blood until a very nice shot comes out from Quack. I assume maybe it's a skin.
Claim.
Has to be. Yeah, clean. Get your ones, team. Come on. I did my part, says Fins. Sorry, says Quack. At the end of the day, Washington Wizards now have a bit of a free start to this round 4. And as I was saying, they needed to recapitulate their defense in round 1 by saying, okay, we don't have to fight them at Hall. We give them Hall eventually, let it be in the final 60 seconds, where it was around that part in round 1, but we don't have to fight them there. Let them have reception with a little bit of fight back from us. Let them take meeting hallway just a little bit. We have crossfires from in the meeting itself. We have players towards secretary. We still have this whole side of the map. So why are we taking such dangerous fights, such ego peaks, trying to make it a single player game instead of a team effort, and ruining that first round for your defense? Shreds should not have even been given a chance, and now they start off on the wrong foot. It could be even worse for them on the stat sheet.
There's somebody on top spiral at the moment to try and apply pressure to the long desk player. You have reason to clear this shield, or a way to clear the shield through the many frag grenades that Shreds had, and emphasis on had because they only have one frag grenade. Now they have none. The IQ at least used one of hers, and 2 players go down on the side of Shreds. That was not only the top spiral player, but I think also a player that was trying to push over by top yellow. This Shreds attack just seems so fragmented, knowing that they can't really push past this hallway now because they don't have any nades is going to waste a lot of time for them. But to be fair, you're in a 5v2, you probably don't have a chance of winning this round.
This is likely why we saw Washington Wizards actually play very heavily in round 1 with an aggressive stance towards administration office. They wanted to get rid of any of the utility that could break the shield just behind the vending machine. This has a lot of information, light being right where the player is. Just because you have a great inkling of where they are and you guess correctly doesn't mean you can get the shots out, and so bam, off with your head. But you pay the price quickly thereafter. Asian now, they're second in this round, and maybe a chance for some more, as with that death from Fins and Rami getting it, that tells you, yeah, I know where they are. They're inside copy. Let's wrap through that Edmund side, make sure they can't step back out through that door, and you are now trapped in a 3v1 with pressure on every single direction. And Asian, who is already on a hot streak of 2, hunting for that third, and the stats are given to them.
Yeah, and I think once they lost that Habana, by the way, that removes your ranged hard breach. It makes going for that admin take a lot harder because you can't open up the triple wall inside of the break room to help you further progress from admin, then to transition that into the take into hallway. Because, yeah, I mean, that time they actually had utility to deal with a shield in hallway. There wasn't a shield in round 1. But, like, again, they didn't really have much utility to flush out that vending player. With the nades in the back pocket of Shreds, they did have it that time. So it was a very real possibility that they could have flushed out the vending player after getting rid of that shield. You know, if again, they were allowed to at least keep the Habana alive, which they weren't. So, again, not really much progression in the attack from Shreds, who then tried to, like, split off away from each other to find individual lurk plays that, again, didn't really work.
If they're not going to work, what's the answer? How do you fix it? Do you even try to fix it if it was such a big problem in the first place? Or do you avoid and try something different? I say it a lot. The moment you start seeing teams fail at something is when we finally get to see what a team is truly made of. Do they have a fallback plan? Is there a second strategy? Is there a third strategy? Do they have a coach that's laid out the formula that the team just has to listen and follow to? And every team can say, this is our game plan. If this person dies, we now do this. If this person dies, we're just screwed. But the teams that can say in a moment, the start of this is bad, what can we do to completely change our playing field on the map, are going to get much further in the Crucible. And right now, Washington Wizards, they've proven variation. They've proven success. 3 rounds in 4 so far, putting Shreds at a disadvantage. And yeah, it's defense. But the offense from Shreds have not looked pretty in any of those losses yet to Washington Wizards.
I feel bad. I really do feel bad because I don't want to be mean to them. But I'm like, it's just kind of like hard to like see because like the errors that they're making are quite huge in a grand scheme of things.
You never be harder than them, then they will be on themselves following a loss. So.
Oh yeah, true. That's a nice kill. You get rid of Asian, you get rid of a Nitrocell, you get rid of the Valkyrie. I mean, it took a minute, but that's still an opening pick, and you have a minute and 40 to work with. With the rest of Washington Wizards now giving up that second and first floor control, you can move the Buck right into Expo and Piano. It's going to take them a little bit because you can tell that Shreds don't really have complete info on the top floor. And they're still playing up here. What? I didn't know that.
It was tucked away. Soft wall around them starting to be torn through, and you just don't have nearly enough. And what an angle. Young Romeo off in the distance. Now Washington Wizards, despite being down in basement, have lost 2 players who failed to make that retreat back. And for a lot of teams, they're fine with this. Play to die on the upper floor, get some information, hope for a kill or 2 in the process, and then if you're capable, maybe fall back. That's reliant on the idea that your defense still holds strong with 3 players stacked and static on site, because you have to have levels to your defense. There we'll go. Once again, a toss out for the tuber out canister, stall out the garage breach. Nothing too much being detonated that way by Shreds, but time will inevitably be a factor as we're into the final 30 seconds. Woos watching a pixel. Finn still closer to sight, and Bino now tossing a Nitro with the detonation. Nothing at the end of it, as Woos is not exactly sure where they took damage, but Finns knows where they need to be looking. 1 to their name. Quack off. Player down long haul, a second to Finns' tally, and they want more. Fiending for Rami, but being denied it in the process. But that's why Bino's got your second. 1 more down through wide stairs, and a DMR on defense rips through the Shreds offense. Defense, the Wizards, once again, barely, but damn do they do it, survive.
And like, again, despite Shreds actually having like a decent like early round, droning out the initial roamers, isolating them, actually working together to pinch these roamers and cut them off, like as they try to make a retreat back into sight or as they hit in a corner. They get the top floor control. They have these vertical angles in their favor. I think time, again, was like a really big issue for them, which has been an issue for them throughout the whole game. They kind of like stall out for a little bit. That allows Washington Wizards to move some pieces around, specifically Finns over by Yellow Pillar. That takes out, I believe it was not only the player on the back push, but also another player. I can't remember who it was, but either way, it allowed them to retake that pillar position. That meant that Shreds could not go for a safe plant initially, and because you have like no smoke grenades, no sight denial, nothing, no line of sight denial, then that meant that like they just can't like walk in and plant. They're walking into long angles, they're walking into ACOGs, stuff that they haven't cleared quite yet. So again, time is a really big issue for them, because while they did a great job in the early round to take care of their initial issues, you still have some late round issues that you have to get past, and they didn't do that.
Late round issues aside, the issues in this first half have been plentiful, and Shreds, while we've seen inklings now, has to bring a whole lot more of their A game. 4-1, a 4-2 ending half. That's fine. You can survive with that. 5-1 becomes something that's a whole lot harder, especially for your team that has not been tested that way quite yet. Shreds have faced their losses, and they've had to eat their lumps. And speaking of that,
Oh,
quick
what?
foray in for kills. It looks like a Bands Coast qualifier style of rush. Everyone in the map, everyone close to sight. They want to dedicate. It's Diffuser going down by Reclu, but a reckless one at that, because Bino's up above, devastating them in the process. Woos with a T5 SMG, though they lose Bino quickly afterwards. They're still prowling around here on the top floor, and that Diffuser's been left in no man land, and Asian's good for another. 3-on-1, Quack left alone, clearing out the corner. And where is the aspect ratio for Quack? They miss them on the peripheral, and Woos ain't missing those shots with the T5 SMG. Aggressiveness aside, you just didn't find the kills in the process to secure that round for Shreds.
And I thought that was actually like a pretty like decent rush. I mean, yeah, you still have vertical angles being held from Washington Wizards. I think the player up top could have been a lot quicker in cutting them off to allow that plant to go down initially, because the Finka had the jump on one of the top 4 players, or at least the both of them, when she was moving through. So I think either you need to wait a little bit, find initial cover, and then wait for the Finka to move into place, and then call it 3-2-1, and then have the Finka push in through. So, like, again, a good idea from Shreds. I mean, I think, like, the basement round, and then, yeah, the round after that, which is the one that we just watched, were improvements, but you're 5-1 down, and now you have to defend. So we'll see how well Washington Wizards can attack, because this is the same exact scoreline that they had against Core, and they completely choked that when they went on air attacks on the Sky.
That is Core. That is also just how this map tends to pan out, so
That's also true.
it's truly in Shred's hands now. Their destiny, their fate is in their own hands, and it's up to Washington Wizards to try to strip that away piece by piece, and those pieces are tallies in the kill feed. You gotta win your ones, but in the process of doing so, you have to climb up some rungs of that ladder to reach the top, and it is prickled with thorns. Trying to get early information. Mozzie's got themselves a stolen drone. That's Quack now trying to prowl around and check what these players may or may not be coming within. We saw Mozzie actually earlier in the previous series, or actually, I guess 2 series now ago, do a little bit of success. They had quite a few kills. I can't recollect who exactly it was. Maybe we see Quack try to pull that out quite well now for the Shred side on their defense in this very first for them of round 7, hiding away in the corner. Now not finding what they wanted, rotating off to the opposing side of the map. It's an even trade as a toss-out nade from Fins catches Rami. You don't see many of those very often with the change to nades. Rest in peace, OG nades. But you also don't really see kills going back the other way too often as quickly as that, as both sides lose one.
I'm confused on where that nade could have come from, because Fins was on the roof the whole entire time. I'm thinking maybe he got it through the window, and the bandit was baited tricking over by admin side. Quack does find a kill onto Bino, and that takes away the Grim utility that can be used for the remainder of this admin push that the Washington Wizards are trying to go for. At the moment, you can see they're just kind of hanging on the roof, and it might like switch this up where somebody may just try and go like spiral stairs. You have a player on a window, so yeah, they're clearly splitting themselves up to see if they can like try and take space.
Wow. Woos falls victim once again, and it's Fins now joining them in the afterlife, and Dev, who was very clutch previously, a 4K with the Mossberg in round 2, won't get much luck heading into the first round of the second half. A barrage of 9mm rounds from nearly every weapon in the hands now of your defensive Shreds. Just rips asunder the health pools of these Wizards side. You gotta change up the game plan. I don't think bringing 4 nades was as effective as you wanted. Yeah, you get 1 nade kill. That, I believe, was their second nade. You gotta start getting a Claymore. You can't allow a run out through main. You cannot allow that free frag towards Bino. You needed that player still standing. The offense off to a poor start. Now you got to play into the basement. In this one, we saw the trials and tribulations that Shreds was having to deal with, and the success they had in their last attempt that then fell apart from the better gunplay of the Washington Wizards. Maybe that will change as they get the advantage of having the offense head into them and try to play against that Peaker's advantage that is plaguing esports as a whole.
And I kind of like the idea that Shreds are going for their defensive setup here for the basement site. They not only have the Mozzie in play for information denial and to further waste the Washington Wizards' time, which, I mean, in that round, I don't think it was a case of time. I just think that they just didn't really do the admin clear that they wanted because of whatever reason. Either way, like, yeah, you have the Oryx here. Again, that's just to give you more access to these hatches and more access to some of the floors through these hatches, give you a quicker way to rotate around the map. And so that might cause a lot of issues if the Washington Wizards aren't too careful about it, because clearly for Shreds, they are prioritizing the vertical play.
The sprint too, the blitz comes in, still gets melee, but that's why you have teammates around you. I talked about the BTR, that's speed and swiftness, the Washington Wizards. 2 players positive, diffuser officially down, and the offense quickly becomes the defense. So Nitro is ripped out, but it's ripped instead by the player. Azez now has 2, but it's the only 2 for the Shreds defense as they're forced out a retake into their own site, and these crossfires from Bino are just too much to overcome. Let them all feed into you. It's a massive onslaught of success, and the Washington Wizards say speed is king. Ka-chow maybe would be the phrase for it, Lightning McQueen style. Round 8 is decisively setting up for match point and game point for the Washington Wizards.
And, like, if you look at the lineup in that round for Shreds, you have nothing to stop that direct take coming in from Pillar. Like, you only have the Thorn, and it stops right about there. Clearly, Shreds were banking on the fact that Washington Wizards would go for a direct site take, but because the Washington Wizards had, like, good information on the site setup in the first place, what happened was they just recognized that, hey, look, we can just walk into Pillar and isolate the player on Pillar, which was the Kaid. You have no backup in the hallway on these footholds to hold a crossfire with them. There's nobody really playing in sight where the mirror is inside of that small office or inside of security room. Like, there's almost no protection for the Pillar player, and they also don't have vertical set up, neither in piano to stop a plant. So, yeah, very good gap spot by the Washington Wizards to confirm themselves on match point.
There still is a million hills in front of you, possibly, if Shreds are able to piece things together. And it's not like we didn't see glimpses of positive things from the Shreds side, but there was just nothing to see in that last round, right? It came too fast. The call-out wasn't made quick enough. It was just too unexpected. Whether this now means you have to play way closer to side or not, time will tell, but the Wizards lose a very pivotal player, that being their Thermite. No exothermic charge, the breach not available for Garage, and if you wanted to take that quick push through, it is no longer an availability. You'll have to play a whole lot slower and maybe hope that your can openers, your 2 in the back pocket, can do something for you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what Washington Wizards were going to go for anyways. They're not going to do a direct site take. They want to take vertical. That's why the Buck and the Ram are here. And that's a pretty smart idea. Again, they're clearly doing the work during the prep phase to gather information on the lineup from Shreds, because this time around they brought a Goyo and a Smoke. So going for a direct site take is clearly not an option. In the meantime, Washington Wizards have gotten 2 kills. One is on one of the roamers, and now that leaves Quack by himself on this first floor, and, well, Washington Wizards are clearly going to just drone this guy out and kill him if he stays here.
All about time. There's still plenty of time for the Washington Wizards. Now you have to worry about where the Shred side are, and Quack is still roaming about. Quack is still a dangerous threat and needs to be contained, and they will lap back in. It's a victory lap for the Shreds defense in the roam game, particularly escape into... well, they've hopefully solidified. And we do see those Goyo canisters, the Vulcan canisters, both placed over there towards that yellow stair, that spiral stair in the basement. They know that's where half, if not the majority of the rush came from the Washington Wizards previously, and they did not want to allow that. So what is the best way to do so? Just send out some very dangerous utility back the other way to at least stall, force them to rethink things through, and try to cap back. But when you have to make that choice, when you have to dump that utility,
skip it. Okay.
It makes you lose out on utility elsewhere. And that makes me question whether we would have seen a more effective one-dimensional approach from the west side of the east side of the map working towards the west, down in basement particularly, that admin side, you know. Maybe that would have been a little bit more effective from them. It's inevitably something that will have to happen in another round if it gets to it. But it's still a possibility if Shreds can clutch out in this 2v2. 30 seconds. The calls are still coming through, forcing the defenders to pull their phones out. As Quack wants to get into a spot to clear out these, you could have stalled the remainder of the round if they were still up. But I think they have been officially doomed by Rami. And with that info, you get the crossfire. There's your one. Bino has a chance to clutch up. 9 seconds left. The fallback's been made. Shreds may have punched their ticket to a chance at victory, but Quack may have fallen back too soon. Needs to go absolutely crazy in the final round as the plant is confirmed. Back around the corner. Bino with shots. No more. Quack gets it done to the D. Bino. It is one more round for Shreds at minimum.
Oh my god. And you know what? Like, great round from Quack. And even if he did wait like a little bit too long for the plant to be completed, still is able to find a 3K in that round, kept Washington Wizards in it, especially when, kept Shreds in it, especially when Washington Wizards tried to go for, like you mentioned, maybe just a little bit too much control. I mean, you really only have like a good chunk of the map cleared, and they obviously just didn't really have good info on Quack's position, or they did have good info on his position, and they just like took a 1v1 gunfight against him and lost it and kept losing more bodies in the process. And they also lost the buck too. So it meant like the site positions became a lot stronger when you have less vertical to work with. You only really have the ram. And that's exactly, Washington Wizards struggled that round because of it, because they didn't really adjust their push. So, now going into the next round, still Washington Wizards on the match point. Gonna be second for site choice this time for Shreds. And yeah, we'll see if there is any adjustment. They may just go for a CEO take, judging by the current lineup.
That's literally a great question.
Very viable option. I mean, we talked about window as a whole and the Amaru and the Garu hook, but that's a lot of the times just used as a way to burn that utility. And for a team as good as the Washington Wizards are, this would be the strategy I expect them to employ. Dev has officially locked it in as the round goes underway. Asian with the DMR. Dokkaebi calls, force the Shred side to have to either have utility up to stop the push forward or to fall back a little bit further. There's not actually a whole lot of utility, at least in my mind here, Shaka, that Shreds have that can keep them truly away from this spot. It's going to be the first floor that they're looking to. If you can clear out a first floor player, you can secure domination of that window presence. Get somebody there first. That's why Finns has the drone there. Asian can maybe try to prowl around there, use the Dokkaebi call, entry in for themselves, clear out that bottom side closer to exhibition, right? Closer to that site down on that first floor. And then take space. The nomad mines won't mean anything if there's no one to shoot back at, and there it is, completely unseen,
Nitro?
completely unheard. Nitro, maybe a chance. I think that was just cleared away by the Repel player, and Washington Wizards have now secured themselves a post-plant scenario. Gridlock track singers go down, swing out the shotgun in hand, acts like a DMR, but won't get a chance to do more because they're finished off by Finns' nade, because Finns isn't looking the right way. Quad gets their frag, and Woos gets two. That's it for Shreds. The Washington Wizards highlight the success you have with that swiftness, with that speed, with the unknown, which should be known, of taking that major window into sight. This may be the toughest match we've seen all day, Shaka. Toughest pill to
I'm gonna be
swallow.
completely honest as well. Like, Shreds, you just left a huge gap on site. They have like no utility to hold the windows. They opt not to bring Goyo or Smoke, which, I mean, they have nitro cells, but one of them is down in the basement site, and then the one that you do have on site is extremely late. They have no way of stopping the plant once that nitro cell has been shot out anyway. And once you're in a post plant position for CEO on that window repel, you can basically just kiss that round goodbye if you're on the defense.
So much went wrong, but a lot also went right. Maybe to help us guide this through and have a bit of a third person's perspective. Welcome back here into the booth, Whiskey Glitter. We're super happy to have you in here.
Do you believe in magic? Well, the Wizards do, right? A dominant first half, giving us a 5-1, and then pedal to the metal at the end, including a quick plant that was quite obviously going to be coming next. Chaka, we talked about this being a tough map to attack, and 5-1 is anything but standard. What happened to Shreds?
I mean, I just think for a majority of their attacks, they were just extremely slow. And I think that, like, while you have, like, some initial ideas going on there, at times they just didn't really have much layer to them. Like, you think about, like, the exposition and piano attack. They just tried to go through lobby, ace it, and then they didn't really, like, challenge onto the vertical at times. Another round, they do something slightly different, but then the player who's on the top floor is a little bit late to the party, or rather, maybe the teammates that are in sight just plan it a little bit too soon. They expose themselves to the vertical, and there's almost really like no communication there from Shreds. And when they were like in a good position in the early round to maybe go for these clears, they kind of just didn't really do them properly. Like, players are just going for isolated gunfights, and for the most part, they were just stalled out for time most of the time.
So basically, Shreds was, or it wasn't that the Wizards were going out and winning every round. It was really that the Shreds were just letting them have it, right? They were just going out and losing those rounds. Is there a specific push point or pinch point here in Infernosis? Was this a group effort? Was there a player that stood out? What propelled the Wizards today?
It's definitely a group effort, right? I mean, there are players that stand out, but you don't have to highlight them when it's such a lopsided victory point, right? The Washington Wizards, it is a team. It is one of the best team, if not the best team you have here in the Crucible, and they're trying to make that point known, even despite the, the core matchup they had previously. And that's another great team that you have to keep your eye on elsewhere. It just comes down to a lot of what Shreds were bringing kind of felt like a mirage. It didn't really feel like there was depth to it. There wasn't meat to it. It's like having 2 pieces of bread and then throwing a half a piece of bologna in the middle. That's not bread. That's sad, right? And that's really what we had. They reached a point where you got past the bread and you realize there's nothing in my sandwich. I just got scammed out of my payment plan I made for this. Like every other college student trying to get by at the worst time, right? It just has to change for Shreds. Start good, end good, have some meat for your rounds.
Yeah.
Okay, so 4 best of ones. Couldn't have said it better myself, right? Absolutely. 4 best of ones today. And as we're getting to the end of it, real quick, I'll go back to you. Recap these first 2 matches for me. Start with Reality TV Friendship Team, and then take us on to Spaceships Outlast.
Well, we've already seen Cafe, right? And Cafe does not change too much between these maps, but it also doesn't change seemingly if your Friendship Team. They just dominated Reality TV throughout that one. Even with the new additions to their team and the adjustments that they've made, it doesn't feel like the Mr. B addition just yet has done enough to really elevate them to the level that I feel like they deserve to have that respect at, but still need to really prove it right now inside of Crucible. And for Shoobs, they almost pulled that comeback. It was back on console once again. We essentially mirror matched up our maps and just repeated the first start for our first 2 sets, because Outlast hadn't put themselves at match and series point for a very long while there, but Shoobs picked up, what, 3 matches or 3 rounds in a row, I should say, to almost tally it in. There was a fear in the back of all the production team's mind, like, we got to get this game going, got to get to the next sets, we got to get the casters in the booth, but Shoobs refused to go down, which I think shows a really big level of persistence of, I think you called it insistence, which I think was a really good way to highlight what felt like for Shoobs there. But Outlast eventually get their dub, and it was just a really good first set match for Friendship Team and Outlast overall.
And Shaka, you guys did the last 2 games, so it's going to be fresher in the mind. Bands Coast versus Up Next, Washington Wizards versus Shreds. Give us some final thoughts on these last 2 matches.
Yeah, honestly, it kind of just felt like the first Playday when I casted with Fellow. Where the last 2 games just kind of felt like sweeps, because for me, again, it just there feels like a sense of adaptability, a lack of adaptability for a lot of teams. It takes, like, for Bands Coast, it took them a while to adapt. I mean, there was adaptation in some rounds, and then, like, for Shreds, I mean, there was adaptation in maybe like 1 round, maybe 2, and that was really about it. Oftentimes, it just kind of was just. It was just a huge issue of just, like, it wasn't even just adaptability, it was just, like, being too slow at times, and Bands Coast suffered from this as well when they were attacking.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, all of the matches are done, and if you want some more Siege, you're gonna have to come back for the next installation of the Crucible. Quick thank you to the production team and the observers, just really pulling off a great show this evening. Thank you to the teams for showing up, and specifically thank you to the people watching and hanging out with us. Infernosis, Chaka, it was a blast having you on, but we are at the part of the evening where we get to say goodbye. So from all of us here at the Crucible, have yourself a great night, and we'll catch you on the next one.